Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the studio this evening. And today, I don't know if you can see it down here, I've got it drawn. We are going to do a spooky zombie graveyard scene. You can kind of see a reference photo up there. I've kind of embellished a little bit. There are elements of that one I liked. There are some that I didn't like. I've kind of made it in my own. Got something a little different here. We'll talk about that. But thank you for stopping by. Let's talk about the supplies that I'm going to be using before we get going. So the paper that I'm using is Fabriano Studio paper. Over here on my right hand side is my studio set of paints. I've been using this set for a long time. I put all these colors together myself. Please, if you have questions about that, ask about the paints. These are all M-gram paints, and we'll probably use quite a few of these while we're doing our stream. The brushes that I'm using this evening, oh, come in focus. There they are. These are my King Art 9020 brushes. I very much like these. They are pointed, round brushes, and let's see. With that, I think I'm going to just jump right into this. Anybody who's here hanging out, just give a shout out, say hello. I'm usually pretty nice about things. Try to be. I'm going to start this painting by pre-wetting my background. I'm going to try, and I don't do this all that well during a regular sky, but I'm going to try to paint my darkened, moody, spooky sky here all in one go. So I'm going to give myself a little extra time as I'm doing this. I got a little drop of water just came off my brush right there, and I'm going to pre-wet my paper. Hopefully you'll be able to see all of this, but I've just grabbed a large brush with just some straight water off out of a little bin here, and I'm just gonna go around a few things and make sure I do this. And I want to do this so that when I go to add the different colors on here, I get this diffuse kind of a eerie background on here. Deborah is here. Hello from Colorado. Thank you for joining me this evening. I'm glad to have you here. This is your first time here. It's only a couple of rules. Be nice to everybody else who's here, and well, I guess that's kind of the only the only rule. You can ask any questions you like. I love to talk about art, watercolor specifically, although we'll talk about other art. I'll talk about life in general. I'll talk about the holidays coming up, all kinds of things. That's kind of one of the fun things about doing a live stream is I want to talk about art, but it's fun because you start talking about art and then life comes in play, and before you realize it, we're all just having a conversation and kicking back and talking about whatever's on our mind. And I think everybody who's been here really enjoys that. So Liza is here, I see. Hello, Liza. This is going to be good. Liza, now you've been around a while on these streams, and you know I don't always paint skies all that well. So take a deep breath. Or I should say I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to hope that I can do this justice, and we'll see how it's going to go. I'm going to try to get some of a cold yellow here. Now it looks like my last painting I had a bit of warm yellow. So I'm going to mix that into the grays that are already on my palette here. I'm going to come around the moon with that. I'm going to let that just kind of spread out. Get real nice, and you can see it's plenty wet. That paper is plenty wet, so this is going to run and just do whatever it wants. I want it to do that. because I want the extra time that pre-wedding this is going to afford me to start adding some other stuff here. Chats are great for this channel. I don't really hold much back, do I? Eliza, you've been here three years. You've probably been here 3 years, and I took some time off in there. But we talk about all kinds of stuff on this channel, much more than just art. And you've learned a few things. That's always a bonus. If I start moving this down and off the page, somebody just yell at me that I'm doing that. All right, now I'm going to mix up some more of this Payne's gray over here. I'm going to mix just a little bit of sepia in there. Maybe a little bit of blue. Let's see how this turns out. I want these colors to come together and be happy and mixed together. And this is gonna be well, it's gonna be something. I have this vision in my mind how this is gonna go. And I think once it went that way, it doesn't always go that way, but sometimes it does. So I'm just putting on some color here while this is still nice and wet. I want this moon to glow quite a bit. Let's mix a little bit more of this gray over here. Liza, are you doing anything for Halloween this year? I don't know. My kids have started to age out of that a little bit. Kids are high school age, and it's cooler to go over to their friend's house and do something with their friends, really, than it is to, to kind of stay at home and do some Halloween pranks or something like that. That's okay. I don't miss it at all. I do kind of miss it. I liked walking around the neighborhood and seeing what everybody else was doing, and not scaring people ever so much, but no plans yet. Love to pass out candy, and my Mary tried to scare the kids for it. Yeah, we haven't even really stayed home much because not that I'm not willing to stay home and pass out candy, but we've always been out and about and collecting. And then you can't just go to one house, right? You can't just go to two houses. You got to go to 3 or 4 or 5 houses to get candy. And so what I always think is just going to be, I don't know, a half an hour walk around the neighborhood turns into 2 hours. And I think at one point, the kids didn't want to go with each other. I've got 2 kids. They didn't want to go with each other. So then I had to come home and swap out kids and take one and then take the other and go from there. It's all good. We all had fun with it. You're having lunch with friends. Spooky friends? Friends from beyond the grave? Ooh. Maybe. All right. Okay. Look, there's my scary nighttime sky. I'm just gonna keep maybe I'll put a little bit more in here. That doesn't look too bad. Michael, tell the truth. Did you take some of your kids? Of course I took some of my kids' candy. Of course I did. I had to charge a fee for security on the walk, right? So that's a little bit of candy right there. Actually, my kids are really pretty good. They don't want to eat everything. So most of the time, you like that it's already kind of looking a little spooky, right? Most of the time, my kids will get home and they dump their candy bowl out and they look at it and they go, "Oh, I don't want this. You can have this. Oh, I don't want this. You can have that." And then so there's this whole bartering system that goes on around Halloween, around 9 o'clock or whenever everybody gets back. I don't know. Okay, so you can see where I'm going with this. So that picture up in the corner, that's the one that I when I first envisioned this, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And then, so I started thinking about it, and I'm like, that's not really what I want to do. First of all, I don't like the position of that hand. It's just open like this, and it doesn't look that great. I wanted one, that had, well, let's see, what hand have I got? I've got this one. The fingers were curled in a bit more, so I drew it like that. And truth be told, if you looked on here, you could see a second hand in here. I drew it once, and then I went, I don't think that's big enough. I want it bigger, more, to bring it more in the foreground. And then I drew it bigger, and then I looked at it and I went, oh, ooh, that's too big. So then I was like, well, what am I going to do with it? I think I'm going to have to leave it there. Okay, I'm going to let my sky dry up a little bit. It's kind of looking spooky up there. I might have to add some dark in here in a couple places. I don't know. It might work for me, though. We'll see. That Payne's gray that's in there really dries really light, so I'm not sure how that's going to go. And then I'm going to make the moon here pretty gray, like a pale yellow, but a little gray, and I'll put some of the moon, like I don't know, what are the dark spots on the moon? I don't know what those are called. The seas on the moon? Something like that. I'll put that on there, so that'll be good. That'll be like a faraway moon back there. And then I want to make the hand a little green grayish. There's going to be a lot of gray in this painting, but a green grayish. I do want it to be a zombie hand. It's coming out of the grave. Rah! Well, it's not holding a paintbrush, but rah! Like this. So I'm gonna try to have a little bit of fun with that and make that look like I want it to. So we can hope for that. And I'm looking. I painted a skull the other day, and it looks like I used some of my, or maybe when I painted an orange, I got some warm orange warm yellow in my cold yellow. Yes, I'm just stalling for a little bit because I'm gonna mix up some greens here. A gray green. I'm gonna start with cobalt green, and I'm gonna put this on as my grass color, and I don't want it to quite touch the sky there. Right, a nice dirty green color here. There we go. I like that. And I'm going to paint that on. Actually, I'm probably going to paint it a lot lighter in the back there. And let it get a little darker and a little richer and a little fuller as it comes up close. Some more of this green color. It's a dark day. It's a dark evening, right? So we don't get the full vibrancy of these colors, so gotta darken it down a bit. I just want to leave a little bit of a rough edge here. This is going to be dirt in front here that the hand is coming up through. I'm watching the number of people here. It keeps fluctuating up and down. I'm not sure if people know what's going on here. I'm not sure. They might read the description and go, oh, I want to check that out. And then come in and go, whoa, that's not what I thought it was going to be. And then they back out a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Anybody who's just come in, I don't know if you're who's here right now. Feel free to stop by and say hi, hang out for a little while. I'm just going to keep painting and talking, and you can just uh, keep watching. Ask questions if you like. For here, we should have more of a I don't know what you call a deckled edge here. There's some more grasses growing down over here. There we go. I'm just going to mix a bunch of my greens in here. I'm never sure exactly what to think when these streams start. A lot of people come in, a lot of people go out. It always seems a little weird. I'm like, do I keep talking? Um, as I see numbers come in and go up and go down, do I invite them to talk? Should I be quiet? Should I just talk about what I'm doing? It's a little weird sometimes. Yeah, Liza, I doubt they're clicking off because of you. I'm certain it's not because of you. Um, your question is, what did you add to the green? Sure. So, right, I just want to, I don't want to get too far away from this gray palette. So, I've got all of my neutrals over here, really. Right? All the way over on the far side is Payne's Gray. Then the next color in from that is neutral tint. It's an M-gram neutral tint, and it's a little bit purplish of its own. And then in from that is sepia. So I just dabbed a little bit of each of those in with my green. And the green, I guess I grabbed mostly cobalt green from here, right in the center, and maybe a little bit of that phthalo green. You can see a little bit of that phthalo green right in this area. Right in here, it's just that much brighter than, um, than let's say this green back here. That's really pale back there, right? That's getting blasted with that moonlight. That's really pale. So that's what's going on with that. And now I'm just going to take, where am I going to do this at? I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to add some sepia, maybe a little bit of burnt umber, and of course a little Payne's Gray. And I want to get a gray brown to use here as, it just occurred to me I could do all this with the blue. That would be wonderful. Because I want to make some dirt around the gravestone here. This is a fairly fresh grave site, so it should have some dark dirt going around it. There we go. Gonna warm it up a little bit as it comes onto the side over here where there's probably a little bit of light. Liza, of course. I love to talk colors, so whenever you have a question about a color that you want me to talk about, I will happily stop and talk about that. I don't know where this love of color for me came. I never really grew up with art, not a lot. Anyways, I don't suppose it's not too different than most people. But at some point, I just started going, "Wow, colors are really fascinating." I actually, oh, I can't see. There's a little token right there. You actually live right next door to a cemetery? Do you really? Is it creepy out sometimes? Does it? I need to know. I think it would creep me out uh, quite a bit. Do you ever walk over there just to see if you can manage to walk through? I would do that. Can I get through this cemetery? Can I walk through by myself? I grew up and we had a little tiny cemetery. You know, my town, I think I've talked about the town I grew up in. The town I grew up in was tiny. We did have a little tiny cemetery in the center of town. And as Boy Scouts, we would go, or Cub Scouts, or Scouts in general, I guess, we would go and we would put, um, flowers on everybody's grave at military holidays, Memorial Day and Veterans Day, probably Labor Day, and that sort of thing. Um, and I just remember going, there is no way I am going to be in this place after dark. It is just not something that's going to happen for me. All right, there we go. I've got some dirt on there. I purposely didn't want to make it too. What's the word I'm looking for? Um, Homogeneous. I want some of this lumpy and bumpiness, and I want the color change in there. I don't want it to be all one color, and then I've got to go back and change it after that. Let's see. Yes, I do have some interesting stories. Walking daily with your dog. Actually, during the day, it's probably pretty nice. But summer day is lovely because people are allowed to decorate it with flowers and lawn ornaments, and it's very. Oh, that's nice. That's actually very nice. And you have some lovely heads with art on them as well. Um, Actually, that probably is really nice. I don't mean to. I really don't mean to make fun of gravestones or anything, but I don't know. I don't know if I could be next to a gravestone like that. But whew, um, we did when my wife was pregnant with my son. We did walk through a graveyard here, the graveyard in which her uncle is buried, just to see if we could find some cool old names that we might want to name him after. Right, rather than getting the Book of Popular Baby Names 2023 or whatever, we thought it'd be cool that we just take a look and see what else is out there. And we found some really interesting baby names, or names that we could have named our babies. Um, we didn't. In the end, we didn't. We named them after relatives. Not the one that was buried in the cemetery where we were at looking for names. But during the day, I'm totally fine with it. Um, I actually went to. So, how about this? Have you seen TV show? I almost said Dexter. Um, oh, good Lord. Bosch. Have you ever seen the TV show Bosch? I think it's on Freevee now, but I think it started on. I think it started on Amazon. There's a reason I'm going here. Bosch is a character in a series of novels. Oh God, now I got to think of the guy's name, the novelist. I'm gonna say Michael Connolly. Michael Connolly. I think it's Michael Connolly. And I started reading the novels years ago when I lived in LA because he did one called Angel's Flight. Angel's Flight is a little tiny uh, trolley. It's like, I guess it's listed as the shortest, most vertical train in the world. The only boss you know is an appliance. That's funny. So Angel's Flight really just takes you from, I don't know, one level of Cal Plaza to another in Los Angeles, right? The Angel's Flight has been there for 120 years or something. Anyways, he wrote the book Angel's Flight, and so I read it, and then I've read all of his books since. And they made a TV show out of it, and I was really excited. I was like, "This is gonna be great." I watched the first season; it was okay, but they ended it by shooting a scene in my town that I live in now, right down on the waterfront, about a mile and a half from my house, and then they closed it with a scene in the next town over at their cemetery, and it's readily apparent because that cemetery has these giant pyramids in it. And we looked at it, my wife and I looked at it and we went, that's our cemetery. All right, so I'm going to circle back around. That might be the only cemetery that I have gone to do artwork. Because it is such a lovely cemetery. And I've gone and taken sketchbooks, and they've got these cool cactus that are in there and all kinds of neat things. So when you say that your cemetery is actually really nice, I totally believe it. I just don't want to be around any of them. I'm a sissy or whatever. Anyways, yeah, I'm sure it's a Michael Connolly a book. He wrote a bunch of them. God, he's probably up to 8 or 9. The books are always better than the movies. Almost always. 8 or 9 of those. He did The Lincoln Lawyer, if you've ever seen or heard The Lincoln Lawyer. He did that too. The character in The Lincoln Lawyer is actually Harry Bosch's half brother. Susie! Susie made that comment. I was not even paying attention. Susie, hello! I have one example for you. This is my example of a movie being better than the book. And you're probably going to tell me I'm crazy. And I've got a specific reason why this movie was better than the book. You ready? You ready for it? The movie that I think was better than the book was The Hunt for Red October. Not because I think Sean Connery was great, or not because I think whoever else was in it was any good. I don't have any idea who else was in it. But Tom Clancy writes so long and so detailed that I just wanted to say, can we just move on with some of the details? In the movie just moved right along, and it was quite nice. All right, I'm putting on. I don't know exactly what the moon is going to look like here, right? But I know it's got these darker spots on it. Alec Baldwin, that's who it was. Natalie is here. Hello, Natalie. Thank you for stopping by. Always good to have you on the stream. Your father-in-law loves Tom Clancy. Oh my God. I think he's a wonderful writer. I just wish he knew what brevity meant. I can't do it. His books are 400 or 4,000 pages long, and they only need to be 1,000 because he just puts too much into it. And it pains me to say that because I totally appreciate the fact that he's going to do that much work, but oh, that's hysterical. I've read every novel before his gaming books. I didn't even know he had gaming books. Ginger Pie, hello, welcome to my stream. Almost forgot it was Wednesday. We got home last night from a long. Wait a minute, wait. You got home on a Tuesday from a weekend? That was a long weekend. Yeah, Liza, you're, you're. Oh, Infinite Universe is here too. Liza, your father-in-law is very long-winded. Ginger, Infinite, you've been here before. You know, if you have any questions, throw them out there. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll talk about just about anything. If you don't ask questions, this is the only caveat. If you don't ask questions, you're going to have to listen to me talk about whatever it is I want to talk about. So it might be better for you if you ask some questions and kind of help to guide the conversation along a little bit. Happy to talk about whatever, but realize that if I'm talking, it's just gonna come out. It's gonna be a stream of consciousness. Usually, I do pretty well with it. But there are probably a few times when everybody goes, "Oh, I wish he would just get over it." I have no doubt. And I'm just gonna keep right on painting and talking. And does anybody else? Does anybody else here? Okay, this is a great question for a watercolor channel. Does anybody else have an example of a movie that they think was better than the book? Taking nominations now. And I'm just trying to put a little dark edge on my gravestone here. Hoping this is going to lighten a little bit. This is a little darker than maybe I wanted, but that's okay. Because I want this to have some dimension to it. I don't want it to be just, flat. I want when you look at this from a distance and when I turn it back up the proper way, I want you to be able to see it, that there's some dimension on this. And so I'm just going through to put on a little bit of the dark here. Talked plenty of times. You guys don't need to hear me say it, but I'll say it anyways. We need to have some darks on here to make the lights stand out that much more. War and Peace. Oh, you got same problem, right? That's the same problem I had. War and Peace is so long you can't get through it. Same with Tom Clancy. Okay, so now without doing much of anything else, right, we've got some dimensionality onto our gravestone here. We can throw a shadow on here too. We'll probably make it come up this way a little bit. And that'll help set it off a little bit more. I love both of To Kill a Mockingbird. They're equal and classic. Okay. I can buy into that. All right, so now I said some of you missed it. You came late to the stream, and totally fine. I'm going to make this hand green, right? I want this to be a zombie hand. I don't want it just to be somebody who's here trying to climb up out of here. This is going to be a green zombie hand, a classic zombie hand, right? Actually, it was the Russian names and the nicknames. You couldn't keep the characters straight. I understand that. I totally get that. I can totally understand and believe that. All right, so I've got a nice light green here. I'm gonna paint it. Maybe I even need to make it a little bit lighter, more lighter. This is gonna be my zombie hand. And I should say, I'm just gonna say, I struggled to maybe put some blood on the hand. Ooh. Like under the fingernails where he's been digging to try and get out. Got a couple of them here. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I was going to say that I struggled a bit to think of something to do this week, obviously. Few suggestions from my family. Not necessarily the best suggestions. To do like a bat or a cat or some such thing. I didn't want to do a bat because if you look at the list of videos that I've done, I took almost a whole year off, and some of the last ones I did were Halloween last year, and I did a bat last year, and then I did a bat the year before that. I know that, so my queue's a little filled up with bats. But maybe next week we'll do something a little simpler. A bat or a cat or a raven. I do like birds or something like that. Because it's right before Halloween, maybe I'll do it in costume. I don't know, that might be fun. Might be fun to do. I don't know if I could do it. The costume I typically wear, that I usually wear as gloves. I might have to not in full costume, only in partial costume. A vampire. I might be able to do a vampire. Vampire. Now, remember a couple of weeks ago we all talked about things that we could do on Wednesday night, and I wrote them down. I wrote them down right here on my desk, right where my hand rubs. Yeah, all of them got rubbed off. I can't. The only thing I can read clearly is a pumpkin with candy. That's the only thing I can read clearly. That's terrible. A vampire. Maybe a vampire. Alright, I kind of like the vampire. I'm feeling vampire vibe. I might could go in for that. I want to just get a little extra something on here. Make this look a little mottled. Right, this doesn't need to be smooth. This thing's been out in the weather for a long time. It doesn't need to be all that smooth. Right? Get some age on this a little bit. We don't need too much. So, anybody else who's here? Infinite Universe, Headless Horseman. Oh. So I do. I'm okay with attempting a Headless Horseman. My only problem is I've got to be able to do it in like an hour or so. I don't know if I can do a Headless Horseman in an hour. Because if he doesn't have a horse, he's just kind of a guy without a head. A headless guy. And nobody wants to see just a headless guy. So I have to do the whole horse too. My neighbor has a fake tombstone in his yard and it says, "I told you I was sick." I said, that's funny. I'm not I was going to put something funny on here, but I'm not going to do that. But that's a good one. Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of water on here, so I think I can. Yeah, might still be a little wet. Can't quite. Yep. Yeah, it feels a little wet. I've gotta check myself a little bit here, and think about what I can do, um, while I've got some wet areas here. So let's do this. Let's get some nice mixture of all these dark neutrals over here, and let's see if we can do a little bit of a line on the tombstone. You know, some of the tombstones have like it's like a it's like an indentation around everything. See if we can get that going. That's not bad. That's not bad. This might be a little damp on this side to do this, but get that on there. Whoops, I'm just off. What paper am I using tonight? So tonight, yeah, you want me to grab the whole pack? I'll show you. This is Fabriano Studio paper. Let me grab this. Here it is, Fabriano Studio watercolor paper, 25% cotton. For what you get with this pack of paper, it's actually pretty nice. It it holds up well to some scrubbing. It doesn't just absorb the water and hold it, but it doesn't let it go everywhere either. It's pretty nice paper, all things considered. So I don't know when I actually got it. Somebody had given me a pack of it years ago, and I kind of went, oh, it's another paper, and somebody wants me to try it out, and it's going to be terrible, and, blah, blah, blah. But I tried it, and I actually liked it. I used to use a lot of Strathmore 400 series water paper for just regular studio stuff that I would do, and it was okay. I like this better than that. Liza, you have some, and you like it too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here's my best story about my cemetery. Uh-oh. Anybody who doesn't know, Liza lives next to a cemetery, and she's been regaling me with stories about it before everybody got here. There's a baby who died in 1889. Wow, and every year someone puts a flower. Oh, that's nice. Somebody puts a flower by his grave. So 100 and I can't do any math. 144 years, is that right? 134 years, five years. Oh, I need a calculator. That's a long time. Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad somebody does that. Let's see. I'm gonna add a little bit more here. I'm gonna turn this upside down for just a second. While I'm waiting for my hands to dry. Got some filigree up here and a name there. I'm just trying to fill out a little bit on our cemetery, or our gravestone here. Right, there's probably a name that goes across here. Something else. I don't know, something like that. It needs something on it, but I don't know what to. I don't want to write anything on it. It's just, I don't know. I feel bad. All right, let's get back to our green hand here, and let's see if we can't get some color on this to give it some dimensionality. I'm using a lot of phthalo green for this. In my mind, phthalo green is a good zombie hand color. And I'm mixing it with a little bit of a little bit, excuse me, of Payne's Gray to darken it down because it's a little dark, it's a little shadowy out here. Right? There's a pinky. Right there, Michael, what are your thoughts on paper? I used inferior paper practice, but then I decided I should work on what works best for the paint. I think it's economical. Would you agree? Why do you ask me hard questions? If I had my druthers, I would only work on the watercolor paper that makes me feel the best. And for me, that watercolor paper is, as you could probably guess, because almost everybody likes it. It's Arches watercolor paper, right? It's fantastic. Let's just all agree it's really good watercolor paper. So I would use that. Now, the reason I don't use that is because for the same price, I can get this pack of Fabriano paper, and which is 50 sheets of paper, whereas the Arches paper that I would get would be a pack of 12 at most. So, to answer your question, I would love not to have to use, right, what you say, inferior paper. In reality, I'm using the paper that works best for the situation I have. If somebody's going to pay me a lot of money to do a commission for them, I'm probably not going to do it on this paper. I'm probably going to do a test on this paper, then I'll do one on Arches paper, and then I'll do the same one again on Arches paper. The first one I do would be to get used to the paper again. The second one then would be kind of like the final draft. If you had asked me 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would have said, "Oh, you've got to do everything on Arches paper. Arches paper is so good." Now, I've changed my tune a little bit. After having spent a lot of money on paper, I've changed my tune a little bit, and have become a little bit more understanding to everybody's constraints for the price of doing your artwork. I don't think everybody needs to go broke to do it. If you're Thomas Schaller, if you're Alvaro Castagnet, if you're who else is Evans? Who's the Evans? If you're not Dale Evans. Dale Evans is a cowboy, isn't he? I don't know. If you're somebody big in watercolors and you've established yourself and you can charge, a high price for the work that you do, and you think that that you have value in using the more expensive paper, I would always suggest you use the more expensive paper. But I've come down off of my high horse a little bit to say there are a lot of good papers, and quite honestly, some of it's like brushes, right? Years ago, if you wanted a good brush, you had to pay a lot for a good brush. Today, if you want a good brush, you can get a good brush pretty inexpensively, right? It may not be as high a quality as some of the top level brushes still, but that's okay. You're paying, a much cheaper price for it. So and the same thing goes with papers. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg to get some good paper. Find the one that works for you for what you're doing and go with it. Lean into it. Enjoy that paper. Figure out its strengths, its weaknesses, and go with it. And that's what I would do. That would be my advice on paper. But I do really like my Arches watercolor paper. I have some. I have plenty. I don't know, plenty. Enough over there. But man, it is not. It has gotten much more expensive than it ever was before. All right, I'm trying to figure out the pattern here, right, of this dark shadow right in the middle of this hand. How does it come down here? I kind of like that. Is this? Thank you for my perspective. Did any of that make any sense, or was that just kind of an idle rambling that went on for far too long? I think it makes sense. Right, there's plenty of papers out there that we all can use that are so beneficial, but not so much that they break the bank. You use the backside of good paper to practice on. There you go. And then you can use both sides of it. The only problem with that, not that I have much of a problem with that, because it's a great way to reuse the paper and get a second use out of it. But if you're heavy on the water on the front side, then it's already going to be warped and weird on the back side. Right? For some people or for some paintings, that's not a big deal. But that's a consideration. And the tooth is different on the back side. Right? It's always got a different feel on the back side than on the front side. Infinite Universe, is there a proper way to clean and store your brushes to increase their life? Yeah, there is. And I don't use it. Yeah, so, right, I've got this holder that I bought at the dollar store. Right, you see that? It's a horrible, terrible thing. And the reason is, let me demonstrate with a big brush. The reason is, you take your brush, I'll do it under here. You take your brush, you get all your bristles wet, and then you hold it up like this. And all of that moisture wicks down and hits the wood right here. And it'll cause the wood to expand or contract. And pretty soon it looks like, let me see if I have one here. That's not in good shape. Right here. Pretty soon, it does this. How about this? Zoop. It'll crack. Look, that wood has cracked all the way down to here because it's gotten wet and it's set like this. So you have that. Right? Oh yeah, look, this one's cracked all around. Look at all those cracks on that. So what you should do is you should really rinse your brushes really well and then hang them up this way instead of putting them in a cradle that way. If you hang them up this way, the water will wick down away from your bristles, and in theory, it'll make your brush last a lot longer. True, but you can. I've got this little thing here. I can't read what that says. Something, the warped paper under top. Oh, Susie. Oh, you're going. Oh, Susie. Okay, so you're going back to if you use a lot of water on your paper and it gets a little warped. Oh, you can see a little bit of warpage on this one. Yep, you can. You can go back and you can fix that to some extent. You could spray it with a little water and put it under a heavy book for a day, and it would totally take that out. That's true. Oh, you can iron the wrapped warped paper under a towel. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that too. Yes. You always dry your brushes flat before you store them. Why is that? Interesting. Even mine on my table here, my table is slanted at 5 degrees. So I put my brushes down like this at the end of the night. Still, the water kind of wicks down this way. But, having said that, um, you have a spoon holder. Oh, a spoon holder you leave your brushes flat on to dry. Interesting, Natalie. Having said that, right, that, you're potentially going to, shorten the life of your brushes by, storing them this way rather than this way. Let's see. This brush that I have out, this brush is probably 10 years old and still perfectly usable as long as this binding is on here. The handle is not going to crack all the way down through. I actually love that brush. And I've got some others of those. Look, here's one. This is interesting. This is a Da Vinci brush, and you can see that there's been some water infiltration here, and it's gotten red paint down to that line. But this one, no cracking in, and this one is almost as old. I cannot find a brush on my table here. Now I've got the brush carousel that you saw there is tiny. I've got one 4 or 5 times as large over there in my studio. I love brushes. Hi, Michael. I have a problem. I have too many brushes, and I know I've got a couple over there. The other thing that'll happen is the paint will flake off of them. The water gets under, expands the wood. The paint expands on top of the wood. Then the wood dries and goes back in, and the paint will crack. So stuff like that could happen. I don't know. Is it, with the cost of brushes today, is it that big of a deal? I don't know, right? Especially knowing that. So this set that I bought from King Art, I'll give King Art a plug. I use this set a lot. The set cost me $40. I got 8 brushes. I use half of them basically. When I got it, I broke them in half. I went, a 2 goes here and a 3 goes over there, and a 4 goes here and a 5 goes here. So basically I have 2 sets of brushes. One are evens and one are odds. And so I don't use the odd numbers. So I've got 2 sets of brushes. Whenever this even number set breaks down, I've got the other ones. But like I said, I've had these for 4, 5, 6 years. Still love them. They're still fantastic. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to the other ones. That's just, brushes are better today. I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. I don't crack stuff, but somehow I eventually lose my points on your round. Oh, the points up here. Yeah, you can lose those from where? I've got 3 or 4 brushes that I have that do not come to a point anymore. They're now rounded rounds instead of pointed rounds. That will totally help, or that will totally happen. Would it help your brush? Would it help your brush handle if you didn't rinse them above the ferrule? Don't think that will matter. It will probably help, but for the amount of time that your brush is in the water's not rushing up there. For the vast majority of everything, it's wicking up to the top. And there's usually a glue plug in there at the top of this. There will be a glue plug back here where the bristles have been glued together or glued into the ferrule. This brush is a little different. These don't have it. These are just on mechanically with these different. Do I have a bigger one or a better one of those to show with? That's terrible. There you go. These ones are just attached with by these. I don't know what these are even called. The wrappings. So if I were to unwrap these two, all these bristles would fall out individually. These ones, while you're going to lose a bristle or two here and there, if you were to pull these out, there's a glue plug. And in this one, it's right here. The bristles are they go up that far in this brush. I can tell because there's a little dimple right where it's at. And the water's not rushing around that. So we need better glue. We Uh-oh, Infinite Universe is gone. Gotta run. Thanks for the neat live sash. As always. Well, you're welcome. Thank you. I hope I got to you before you left. Okay. I'll keep talking brushes. While I'm doing this, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. I keep pushing this up. Let me do this just a little bit. Whoop. Realize you're not all the way in there. So while I'm thinking about what I want to do next or how I want to do this, I'm actually pretty happy with my moon here. Some of you didn't make it. So I painted my sky first around everything. Come on, there we go. Knowing that I wanted to come back and paint my moon. And so I'm actually really happy with my full moon and how it came behind how it came behind the hand here. And it's got this dark areas in it, kind of like the moon looks. What is my go-to brush? Right here. Whoop. This is it. I could do an entire painting with this brush. But this isn't always the brush I like. That's a weird thing. Liza, you like a Grumbacher round. Do I have any Grumbachers here? Is this a Grumbacher? Nope, that's a Cotman. I don't know if I have a Grumbacher brush. This one. That's a Da Vinci. I have lots of Da Vinci brushes. I like Da Vinci brushes. But for me, you guys saw earlier I was using Da Vinci Casaneo brushes earlier this year. Now I'm back to these. There was a time where I used all of my silver black velvet brushes. I've got a bunch of these. I seem to go between different brushes a lot. And if I paint plein air, if I take my kit, it's actually in literally a camping backpack. It's sitting over here. If I take that with me and go somewhere to sit down and paint out in nature or downtown or something like that, I've got a whole different set of brushes in there, and then that brings up a whole different to do of do I have to get used to those? Are they different enough from from these brushes, which I'm calling my normal brushes? Do with all of it, but I typically while I'm in the studio here right now, I don't know that I do too much with too many brushes other than these King Art brushes. I've said it before. I'm pretty impressed with these King Art brushes. I think they're pretty good. I think they're really good. I'm trying to. I really do like natural hair brushes. But I'm a little sensitive to the fact that, you know, the art industry hasn't always been really good to animals and not really caring about a lot of how they get the hair for the brushes and whatnot. So I went on a kick to try to use only a synthetic brushes, and that's when I found like the snap brushes weren't working for me. Princeton Neptune brushes weren't working for me. I got, ugh, brush stuck is what I got. I got oh, nope, that's not the right one. I've got some big quill brushes like this that are all synthetic. This one happens to be squirrel. This is a Simmons brush. Yeah, this is a Simmons brush. This is a synthetic. Um, some Princeton Neptune. I think I said Princeton Neptune. That I tried, and I didn't really like most of them, but these ones I really do. So I'll probably stay with these for quite a while. Okay, somebody else asked a question. You hate Princeton Neptune brushes. I don't like that they're blunt. They're so blunt. They don't have a good point to them, and that bothers me to no end. Somebody asked me a different question. I'm done talking about brushes for the moment. Let's see. I want to. Let's see. Before I do anything else, I know it's a little out of order here, but I'm gonna put a little bit of a shadow in here. So this is gonna come down this way, right? And then it's gonna come like this. This is just gonna go off the page. So all of this goes in shadow over here. All of this. So I feel I can do this. This all goes in shadow. You can even get some purplish shadow in here. Come on, give me some blue. Two things in this painting I don't like: shadows and skies. And I'm doing both of them. Why am I doing both of them? I don't know why. All right, there we go. There's the shadow for that. It needs to have something here. Let's see. This is gonna have a shadow that's gonna come out this general direction, right? Get some of this green in that shadow too. You think it's looking very well? Thank you. I told, well, Liza, I told you earlier on, I had this vision in my mind. I knew how this was going to go, right up until the moment where I picked up a brush, and then it kind of went all out, all over the place. But that's, you know what, that's okay, because that's part of the fun of doing it, right? If it was simple and easy and everybody was doing it, then it would be great. It would be so nothing. There we go. There's a shadow for that. I think that helps. Okay, now we can see what we're working with here. Oh, yeah, look up there. It's funny, I look up on my monitor and it looks totally different than it does here. Let's see. Liza, you're saying I've got quite a bit of granulation in it. I do, right? All the granulation down here from this green is from the cobalt. And what did I use up here? This has got to be from, it's got to be from the Payne's Gray. Up there. All right, so we've got to get some details going here now. Right? Have you ever tried Impressionistic loose painting. I have. I love it. I don't feel as confident doing that. And I want to do some of that here. After we get through holidays, we'll do a whole bunch of other stuff. Actually, we should talk about. Hang on, give me just 1 second. It's my Italian soda. So good. Um, so, what I want to do is continue. I'm just going to run this past you in kind of a general kind of fashion, and you can let me know what you think. What I'd like to do is continue to do these Wednesdays as kind of a general painting, kind of a how you do things, a fun kind of a stream, not always too serious, because not everything needs to be serious. We can always have a little bit of fun with what we're doing, right? And then I got some weeds over there. Look at that. And then I think I told you guys last week, I was toying with the idea of doing some membership stuff. And I was thinking on like Saturday or Sunday, I could do a live stream and we talk about the other stuff in watercolor painting. Not necessarily painting, right? So we'll take one day and we'll talk round brushes, right? Cool. Who talks about round brushes? Who tells you everything about round brushes? If you find information about round brushes, you've probably had to dig for a lot of that yourself, right? Let's talk about quill brushes. What's the difference between a round and a quill, and how do you use either or both of them? Right? Let's pull out all the different colors that I've got here, and let's give them all a try, and let's see how they work in different applications. Right? Let's do that. Let's pull out all the paper that I have one Saturday, and let's do that. Let's have a day where we just have fun with paint and wash. Let's say something like that, and just get really into the nitty gritty a bit more than what I do now on this Wednesday stream. And it's something I'm thinking about, because since I've come back to YouTube, this doesn't always make me happy. They took away my revenue stream here. So if you've watched any of my videos afterwards or whatnot, you haven't seen a whole lot of ads. You shouldn't have seen any, because I've been told there are none. I don't often go back and watch my stuff. But it would just be a way to, try to get a little compensation for the time and the materials that I burn through and whatnot. Let's see. I'm going to use a fan brush here. Anybody do this? Use a fan brush for weeds. Fan brushes and weeds are great. When I meet beginners, I often find they don't know anything about color theory, mixing colors, warms and cools, pigments. Right. We don't have any idea of any of that stuff as beginners, because we don't talk about it in common everyday language as people, because why would we, right? It's not necessarily something that comes into everybody's everyday language, so we don't necessarily talk about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to find out about it, well, then you've got to hunt and you've got to search and you've got to peck and you've got to do all this other stuff. You use your fan brush for pine trees. That's very um, that's very Bob Ross of you. I do it for pine trees too. Got in trouble in my one painting class for using it for pine trees. The guy took it away from me. I'm like, how dare you? I learned pine trees growing up to paint them one way, and gosh darn it, that's how I'm going to do it. And he didn't like it. He wanted me to do them a different way. And I did, but whatever. Um, so crickets on the membership. That's okay. It's okay. Not going to stop me from doing this because I very much enjoy my Wednesday nights. I'm a little reluctant because I enjoy these Wednesdays so much. I'm a little reluctant to give up the Wednesdays the way they are now because I enjoy them so much. And I have a fear that if they change too much, then either it gets to be burdensome for me or we start to alienate other people. And I want it to be just a general thing that people can drop in and have a good time and talk some watercolors and whatnot. So that's why I don't, that's why I'm a little reluctant to change my Wednesday stream. Liza, you started out with Bob Ross. When I was growing up, I was allowed to watch an hour of TV a day. It could be any time during the day. But I knew that if I got home from school early, and I was usually in sports programs, so I stayed at school a lot and had to get ride homes from friends and whatnot. And that's all well and good. That's not a big deal. But on those days when I didn't have practice and I could get home early, I knew that my parents weren't going to be home, and I could turn on the TV and watch an hour or half an hour even, I guess, of Bob Ross before anybody would know. It was the greatest thing. um, what would it take for me to be monetized on YouTube again? So I've met all the requirements except for watch hours. And for some reason, the amount of watch time that I have is hovering around 3,000 for the past year. And I need to be at over 4,000 watch hours for the past year. And for the past 6 months, it hasn't moved one iota. I mean, literally, hasn't moved at all. So I'm stuck at um, I'm stuck somehow at roughly 3,000 watch hours for the past year, and it just needs to go up a little bit, is by 1,000 watch hours a year. They're doing that to a lot of creators. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with them taking away monetization stream, given that I didn't post a video for 8 months, but um, it's a little frustrating that now I've been doing it for 6 months again and it hasn't done any hasn't gone up. Have I done any videos other than live streams? I've got 2 that I'm about to put up. The problem is I'm not good at editing because I don't enjoy it, and I need to get those up, and I don't. That will help. So I've just got to get that done. That's everything. Everyone has to go back and watch the old ones again. I don't know. I don't think I can advocate that on here. They're gonna gonna come down on me. Like where you going with it though. Okay. Um. So here's what I want to do. I'm not wild about my fingers. They're so light up here. I want to add some color to my fingers. I want to make these darker. Here, I'm trying to see where I can add contrast to this to make something pop off of here a little bit more. I don't feel as though this is one of my better paintings. I need to have, I feel like my finger gets a little lost up here. And I don't want my finger to get lost up here, so I can darken this a little bit. Who asked the question? Susie, would my kids help me edit? Oh. Would you like a video that's watchable? My kids would be happy to, but it would come out a disaster. I've tried to get my son to do it. He would do a great job with it. He's just that kind of a person. Once he starts to do something, he doesn't do it quickly, but he does a thorough job, and he does a very good job with things. I told him I would pay him to edit videos for me. He just doesn't have the desire to do it. And so I don't want to make him do it. Yeah, Liza, if you want to make money on YouTube, it's got to be a full-time job. So when I quit, right when I stopped posting videos or making videos or whatnot, I wasn't making a whole lot of money. Honestly, I was making $1. I was making $1 a day on YouTube, which is all it was. But it was enough. It was enough to continue to buy, packs of paper and new brushes and things to use on here to talk about and whatnot. And I'm not. I've got another full-time job. I'm not trying to get more than that. I don't want more than that because I tell everybody, once you start doing this full-time or more to try and earn a living on it, then it really does become a full-time job, and it's I've got a full-time job. All right, I like the fingers better, darker. They stand out in front of that moon much better. I'm much happier with that up there. Father and son time editing. Every time someone turns it on a stream and lets it run, it counts. I heard it would count. Yeah, yes. Again, I don't think I'm allowed to advocate for that, but yeah, if you started it and walked away, it would count as a view, and then continually for that watch time. One of the metrics is, it's watch time. How do they measure it though? Yeah, it's it's not watch time, length of viewership or something they call it. I don't know. Something like that. Okay. Oh, I'm looking. as I'm talking about viewership, my viewership has gone down. Maybe you could make the subscription available and see what happens. Yeah, I've got to film an intro video to let everybody know about it. That's the next step. I was supposed to do that last weekend and then got derailed with some other stuff. And I don't know. And so it won't happen until at least this weekend. Okay. But getting back to the painting, honest to God, I'm not wild about it. And I think there's a couple of things that are bugging me. Okay. And here's what they are. And I don't know that I can fix these where I'm at right now. This, and I drew it this way, and I don't know why I drew it this way. This hand, the arm, wrist, whatever this is here, is going into the dirt straight across. And it shouldn't do that. It should have an arc down here, and that would make it look fuller. Your favorite part is the self-critique. We should do it. It shouldn't be a thought of whether we do a little self-critique. We should all do a little self-critique. And not beat yourself up over it, but a little self-critique. It'll make it much better for your next one. So this should be rounded, and that would help this whole arm look round. Right now, if you look up here, it looks okay. Look, these fingers are definitely in front. These are pushed back behind. The moon is way back there. That dark green fingers helped there. But then you look down here, and it looks like it's a piece of wood stuck in the ground. And that's really bothering me. The other thing, well, let's talk about something I like. I'm actually tickled that my sky came out like it did. Right, that's kind of an eerie, creepy sky. I probably should have brought my dark down a little further over here. But I like the glow around the moon here. It's standing out. I like the dark areas on the moon. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, there could have been a little darker here, a little bit of darker here, but that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. I like the modeling on here. I'm trying to look up there and point at the same time. That, and this line really give this some depth. But I'm not wild about the corners down here. Actually, I'm going to do this. No, I'm not. If I start to fiddle with it and futz with it, there's something about this corner over here that's bothering me. I'm okay. I'm okay with this side. Looks okay. I'm okay with. There's a very slight line. We can actually even make that a little bit more pronounced. Where these come together. Doesn't need to be much. Just a little something there. Right? They are just, in essence, they all just stacked on top of each other. But this corner bothers me over here, and I don't know, I couldn't for the life of me tell you why that bothers me. And when I look up at the screen, I like the shadows that come off of these two. Shadows bother me. I don't know why shadows bother me. Probably they should have been even darker than they are. And I should have made them offset here and here, where they went from dirt to grass, and that would have risen the grass layer up a little bit. Right? Just they come and then go over a little bit. And then that would have been it. And I guess the other thing I could do, and I could do this part now, is I could make the grass here darker than the grass back there. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. And that will extend that background all the way back. So that one is doable. Right? We can do that. I think. I think. The corner should probably have a shadow. Yeah, the corner over here. The corner of the gravestone probably should have some kind of a shadow line. I think you're right. How we get to that, I'm not exactly certain. I will be honest with you. So we can do this. This will take no time at all, and you'll see it'll pull this, or it won't pull it forward. It will actually push that further back. All of a sudden, that background goes a lot further back than it is now. Darker, darker, darker. Over here. Let it go all the way back there. I I, I like the self-reflection. Even if I'm not on a video, I'll stop and look at what I'm doing and go, is this what I wanted? Is this how I wanted it to look when I started out? There we go. Now look at it, right? Same basic thing, only now it looks like this is so much darker. It feels closer to us. And this is the same color. It's so much lighter. It feels like it's way back there. Just that bigger gradient here makes a big difference. And now this color, it's much closer to this color here too. Yeah, see if I so I'm afraid that if I put Liza, you agree? Thank you. I'm afraid that if I put a shadow on the top of this, what do you call this? I don't know if this is called it's not a lentil. This base, then it's going to look weird. It's going to make it look weirder than it does now. I guess is the only way I would say that. But I'm totally happy about the grass here. What do you like about your painting? This grass on this side is fantastic. This is so terrible. Okay. I don't know where that leaves us. All right. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to call it good enough. I'm going to say maybe he's not one of my best. I'll do better next week. Yeah, I'll do better next week. I don't know. I'm looking at it, I'm like, I want to do something else. But I'm going to leave it here. Next week we'll do something a little simpler. Last Halloween stream. Then we'll maybe do maybe a week or two where some general fall stuff. Then we'll work into some holiday stuff for a little while, and at the beginning of the year, back to just general things. You're here for the journey. I'm glad you're here for the journey. Sometimes it feels like a long journey. No. But you know what? This is like when you have a good day at work or you have a bad day at work, and somebody goes, I hate having bad days. Bad days are terrible, but they're not. You have a bad day that makes you appreciate the good days that much more. So I paint something that I don't think is quite as good as I can do. That's okay. It gives me an opportunity to do even better next time. I learned, especially from my drawing here, which is always going to bother me. I learned a lot from this, and I'm going to come back stronger next week. That's all there is to it. I've got to have a positive attitude about the whole thing. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Natalie, Susie, Liza, Infinite Journey. Was that what his name was? I'm so terrible. Infinite Universe. There were some others up here. Trying to read back through. I don't know who it was. Anyways, if you were here and you're watching back, thank you so much for joining. All of you who are still here, thank you for making my Wednesday night an enjoyable Wednesday night. I always love to come and paint with you guys. I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed the stream too. I hope you all meet me back here next Wednesday when we can do it all again with something else that's fun. Until then, have a great evening. We'll see you. Bye-bye.